because I didn't believe in myself, because I allowed other people's opinion of me to control my destiny, I didn't act on my ideas.
I think that decision-making is a part of the issue of assertiveness. We always think about assertiveness and how assertiveness you can be with other people, but you have to be assertive with yourself and make personal decisions.
That a lot of things that we want to do, a lot of places we would like to go, a lot of things we would like to experience, and we just stop at but. But will cause you to hide out behind fear. But will cause you to come up with all types of excuses that you can validate your inaction and not acting on your dream. But is a dream killer. But most people, you know what they do? Most people go through life quietly and safely tiptoeing to an early grave. We've been holding back. We have ideas that we don't act on, things we want to do, we're afraid to take chances. See, a lot of people say no to things and they don't even know what they're saying no to. Don't allow but to keep you in the corner.
You gotta stop thinking about it and stop dreaming about it and stop researching every aspect of it and reading all about it and debating the pros and cons of it. Just start doing it.
Because it starts as soon as you open up your eyes in the morning or whenever it is that you start the day. As soon as you open up your eyes to greet the day, you enter into consciousness. It is at that moment that your creativity is at its most powerful. Right there and then, you have an opportunity to steer your thoughts and your emotions in the direction that you want them to go, not in the direction that they're telling you to go.
You go out and you try, in your case, you're 100,000 in debt and nothing's working. How do you keep yourself going? The way you did it, the way I did it, the way you're doing it, when you're not doing it consciously, is we didn't change our potential, that was there. And it wasn't even taking more action. Taking more action with a belief's not gonna work, it's not gonna change anything. We got results in our head that made us feel certain as if it had already happened. Think about what's the holy grail between somebody taking action or not? It's one word, certainty. When somebody is absolutely certain, the common word is believe, right? But you can believe at a general level or you can believe with certain. When you're absolutely certain that if I do this, it's gonna get that result and that result's gonna change my life, you'll do it. When you think it absolutely is not gonna work, you're never gonna do it. The middle no man's land of maybe it'll work, maybe it won't, that's the piece that kills people, right? So if it's a must for you, you gotta make it work, right? In our case, right? That's an example. If it's not a must for you and you're not sure, you don't know what to do. So years ago, I'd look around and say, okay, how do people get themselves to follow through that haven't been following through? What's the difference? And I started interviewing hundreds of people, literally, and eventually thousands, because I had thousands of my events. So I'd ask the group to give me their feedback. And I came up with this model. It's like the holy grail of belief, or the holy grail of momentum. It's like the difference between what makes the rich get richer and the poor get poorer, right? And the difference we all know is mindset, but like, how's that built? So this is what I did. I created stupid little 4 little boxes, and I'll scribble it here for you. You think about the first thing that determines whether you can do something or not, and I put that in this first box at the top here on the left side, and it's potential. Like, what's the potential of a human being? Like, when you guys started, you proved something no one had done in history. You ran the 4-minute mile, right? For golly knows how many centuries, they're trying to run a 4-minute mile. Roger Bannister does it. How did he do it? Do you remember? You did it in this industry, right? You made $1 million in a day. No one had ever done that in history, right? After you did it, a bunch of other guys were doing it because it became possible. Roger Bannister didn't just go physically practice. He made a shift in his head. He practiced in his head because he could never achieve it physically, so he had to change in his head first so that the result became certain enough he believed it, and then his body got him through. After Roger Bannister ran that 4-minute mile, within 2 years, 37 people ran a 4-minute mile. Wow. When no one in history had ever done it. Now here's how it works. The potential for anybody getting your product is extraordinary. They can do what you've done as much, more or less. They can do whatever they want to do. The potential's there. The market's proven that. Whether or not they tap into potential has a lot to do with what action they take, which is the question you came to me with, right? Like, God, they all have potential, but they're not taking action. And we all know that the action they take is going to determine the results they get. That's pretty obvious. So most people have a belief about what their real potential is no matter what you tell them. And that affects how much action they take. And of course that affects the result. And then ironically, that result reinforces their belief. and then that belief affects it. So I'll give you an example. Let's say a person has unlimited potential, we all agree. But they take little action, little results. Why? Because they have to start with a problem with their belief. They don't believe it's really going to happen for me. Maybe for Frank Kearns because he's got the cool hair and stuff, or maybe it's for you because you're so driven, but it's not me. Maybe Tony Robbins because he's a freak, got these big teeth. Whatever their thought process is, right? They got this thing, right? But what happens is, if you believe that there's very little potential, how much action are you going to take? Nothing, little. And when you take little potential with a little action, what kind of results do you get? Lousy little results. And when you get little results, what does that do to your belief? You go, see, I told you this was a waste of time, told you this wouldn't work. And then what happens? You tap even less potential, you take even less action, you get even worse results, and your belief gets even weaker. And this sucker feeds on itself until you are in a downward spiral.
It's poisonous.
It's poisonous and it's self-fulfilling. Now, what if something could happen that could come along and fill you with a sense of absolute certainty? Not like I believe, but where you know. In you guys' case, mine as well, we knew because we had to. Because we burned the boats. There was no other option. We had to find a way. We weren't going to live that way. We all did it in different ways and for different reasons, but in essence, that was it. If you get yourself in a state of certainty that this is going to work, I'm going to find a way, and if this doesn't work, I will make the way, then you tap a lot more potential. And when you're certain in your potential, you take massive action. When you take massive action, you really believe in something, you get great results. When you get great results, your brain goes, see, I told you I was a stud. I told you this thing would work out. Now you're even stronger. You tap more potential, take greater action, greater results. That's how you went from $300 in a week to $2,500 in 5 days to $100,000 in a month to $1 million in a day. Same thing with you. And we get momentum. That's why the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. Now some people go out and they go, well, I'm going to take a bunch of action. All right, I'm going to open this product. I'm going to try it. And they'll say to you, I even did it. But it's like a salesman who goes and knocks on the door, and he knocks on 100 doors and says,
you don't want one of these, do you?
yeah, exactly right. You know? And even if he doesn't say it verbally, his face says it because he doesn't believe it's going to work. So his voice, his body, the execution is so weak. Maybe if he talks to 100 people, somebody's going to buy out of pity. They don't want his kids to starve, right? But he's not going to get the result. So the core difference in people is how do you produce certainty when the world isn't giving it to you?
Don't hate your competitors. Respect your competitors. Learn from him.
You'll come up with your own style. That's part of the fun.
Passion is the feeling you have that you would probably do this for free.
When you put forth effort, you get reward.
And your plan has got to have something I call the C5 complex. Your plan has got to be clear, concise, compelling, consistent, and committed. You've got to have a plan.
Now, what? What do you do? Where do you go from here? You see, instead of doing that and putting all your eggs in one basket, the best thing you can do is start investing in yourself first.
Because somewhere when we make this click, when we make something a must, we attach ourselves to it. It becomes part of our identity.
Always lies in the complaints. If you can solve the challenge, you will be successful.
The reason that you're struggling with the next question is because you're always worried about what your parents think. And that really stayed in my head. I was just like, wow, so as long as I'm trapped by what my parents think, I can actually never find the answers to the real questions of life.
Success is going to cost you way beyond money. But the other things that you don't know is how much time it's going to cost you, the friendships that it may cost you.
And we figured, even if we crash and burn and lose everything, the experience will have been worth 10 times the cost.
I'm going to tell you something. That decision cost me everything I had.
And the decisions we make in this moment, which are based in either love or fear. What we really want seems impossibly out of reach and ridiculous to expect, so we never dare to ask the universe for it.
What I had to do is I had to start taking some of my own advice. If you're doing something that you're not totally passionate about, you're compromising yourself every day.
You take advantage of a little thought you had in your head, and when you meet someone by accident who happens to have specialized knowledge, you make sure you get his card.
And the biggest companies that we respect today, the biggest organizations, all came from trying to answer a question. It all came from trying to solve a problem or a question that we were able to identify. So my work comes from a very simple study that I read that said the most successful people in the world choose education over entertainment, and the most unsuccessful people in the world choose entertainment over education.
I want to make sure that every single day that you are alive, that you make it count and you take the sweeter choices of life that God has given you. Because I want to ask you right now, if this was your last 30 seconds to breathe, how would you be remembered? Were you a giver, encourager, or were you a taker? Were you a bitter person? Did you encourage people to, in your actions, in your life, did you help them or did you discourage them? Did you take that time to say, hey, how you doing? And they look to the ground and say, oh, you know, I'm okay. No, look at me. How are you doing? We are here for one another. This is the ministry. This is Jesus. This is the light. And I want to tell you, I'm sure that if any one of us was at a road and there was a 3-year-old kid in the middle of the street sitting down playing with rocks on the street, and a bus was coming and the bus was about to kill him, you have plenty of time to get up off your seat, go save that kid. Will you save that kid? Of course you will. You don't know his name, you're going to save that kid. You don't know his religion, you're going to save that kid. You don't know his sexual orientation, you're going to save that kid. Because why? We are the light and love in the bridge to Jesus Christ. We need to understand that it's not just doing what we think we need to achieve or have. Some people think that things get easier when you get married. Go talk to some married people. Some single people are like, oh, I'm not happy, but I know I'm going to be happy when I get married. Dude, if you ain't happy single, you ain't going to be happy married. Can you hear an amen? Yeah, you guys already know it, right? You got to talk that. So what do you want? How do you act? Who are you? Make today count. Dream big and never give up.
Resolve. Resolve says I will. Two of the most powerful words in the language. Benjamin Disraeli said, nothing can resist a human will that will stake its existence on its purpose. Shortly put, I'll do it or die. Best definition of resolve I got from a little junior high girl, Foster City, California. I'm going through some words one day. I got to this one and I asked the kids, who can tell me what resolve means? Some didn't know, some tried. Interesting. The last one was the best. Little girl about 3 rows back, she said, I think I know, Mr. Owen. I said, what? She said, I think resolve means promising yourself you will never give up. I said, that's the best I've ever heard. She's probably giving seminars somewhere today, right? I mean, that's the best I've heard. I asked the kids, how long should a baby try to learn how to walk? How long would you give your average baby? Before you say, hey, enough's enough. No. Any mother in the world would say, you're crazy. My baby is going to keep trying what? Until. What a magic word. I want you to write it down. Until. Promise yourself you'll read the books until your skills change. You'll go to seminars until you get a handle on it. You'll listen to it until it makes sense. You'll go for it until you understand it. You'll practice it until you develop the skill. Never give up until, however long that is. Step by step, piece by piece, book by book, word by word, apple by apple. Walk around the block, walk around the block. Go for it. Don't miss the chance to grow. And resolve that you'll pay the price until you learn, change, grow, become. Then you'll discover some of life's best treasures when you pay that price.
One of the functions of belief is taking action. We did a survey of about 2,000 top entrepreneurs, and we noticed that one of the things that people who win in that world have is a bias for action. If they have an inspiration, they act on it. I mean, how many of you have ever had a great idea, talked about it, thought about it, didn't do it, and then someone else did it and was successful, and you went, darn, I should have done that. Maybe it was buy that piece of property. You know, all that. We all have that piece of property we wish we'd bought, you know. Anyway, so we're going to be looking at the idea that taking action is part of law of attraction. See, a lot of people think you can just sit in your room, meditate, visualize having the perfect car, the perfect house, the perfect relationship, and then it'll kind of just come to you. And I always say, unless you live at the bottom of a hill, Where there's a road, it's probably not going to be a Cadillac show up in your living room, right? So think about this. The last 6 letters of the word attraction spell what? A-C-T-I-O-N, action. Now, there's 2 kinds of actions that are critical. There's obvious actions. If you want a certain kind of car, you should go down and test drive it. You should find out how much it costs. You should see what it costs to maintain it. You should go, spend, I like to test drive a car 3 or 4 times, go down to the dealer, take a camera, stick my head out the window, say, take a picture of me, I'll be back to buy it. Right, put it up on my refrigerator, look at it every day. Eventually, those kind of things produce car, right? Saving for it and so forth. But there are also things called inspired actions. All of a sudden, you get an inspiration to do something, and you didn't know what it was. You don't have the sense of, how's this rationally going to make sense for me to move forward in my life? I'll give you an example. A friend of mine, Dr. Ignatius Piazza, graduates chiropractic school. He wants to move to Monterey, near Pebble Beach, where the golf course is. And he gets there and he says to the local chiropractic association, I'd like to join you, I'd like you to help me get my practice started. And they said, we don't need any more chiropractors. We have 1 chiropractor for every 8 people in this area. It's too many. Now, he could have said, okay, let the external reality control his internal experience, but he didn't do that. He said, I'm going to think about this and visualize it and believe in it, and something will come that I will do. And what came to him to do was to take 6 months before he opened his office and put a pin where he wanted his office, and then concentric circles knock on every door in every neighborhood saying, hi, I'm a new doctor in town, could I ask you a few questions? I'm starting this practice, should I open from 5 till 9 in the morning, or should I be open from 5 until 9 at night for people who have 9 to 5 jobs? Which would be better? Should I advertise in this paper or that paper? Should I call it Ignatius Piazza Chiropractic or Chiropractic West? Then his last question was, if I have an open house, would you like to receive an invitation? They said yes, he wrote it down. Now, over 6 months, he knocked on 12,500 doors, talked to 6,500 people, and gathered over 4,000 names of people who said, yes, I'd like an invitation to your open house. Now, when he opened his office 6 months later in a town that did not need another chiropractor, according to the professionals, his first month in practice, he netted $72,000. In his first year in practice, his gross income was over $1 million. I was giving a talk and mentioned this story just about 5 years ago, and this happened about 25 years ago. Someone said, he knocked on my door. And he left his card. And 2 years later, I needed the chiropractor, and I called him. Because we work with people we know, we've had an experience with, right? So he trusted his intuition. He took action on it. Other people would say, oh, guess I can't have what I want. You got to be willing to take the action.